Very good morning, children. Today, in my geography class, I will be starting with my new topic, land use pattern in India. Till now, children, I have explained you clearly what are resources, what are the classification of resources, what are the various land utilization of our country. Related to land utilization, where we have learned that the land is being utilized in various forms in our country. If you recapitulate, we find it was divided into forest, barren land, non-culturable land, as well as permanent pastures and miscellaneous tree crop. Based on this analysis only, we'll move forward to the new topic today, land use pattern in India. Land use pattern means how the limited land of our country. You know by now very well that India has 3.28 million square kilometer of total land mass. But out of this total land mass, out of this 100%, we find that only 93% is utilized for agriculture, or that 93% piece of land which is being used for growing of the food grains in our country. When we talk about apart from 93%, these forests are those forests which are found in Jammu and Kashmir area, China border and Bangladesh borders. These land masses are those land masses where there is always a mutual fight or a mutual stress between the two countries regarding the cultivation and grazing of these land. So now with this 93%, we will be dividing the total land use pattern. As the word suggests, land use pattern means the total land out of 3.28 million square kilometer. How we can utilize this pattern? What can be the pattern? What is the percentage which we can use as in the form of the land? Before that, children, let us recapitulate once that when we talk about the various land utilization, we find that each and every land utilization plays a very important role. Today, when I am discussing this land use pattern, I will be citing you an example from of our country between 2 years. The year from 1960 to 61 and the year 2008. After 2008, there might be several additions, but the data of these 2 years will be same and it can be used for future reference also. When we talk about the land use pattern, we find that in year 1960 to 61, the total land mass of our country was in the form of forest. That data was 18.11%. But in 2008, the data rose to 22.78%. Children, it has to be increased. The data shows that there is an increase in the forest areas. You know the National Forest Policy that in the total land area, 33% of the forest has to be utilized. This means that we need to increase from 22% to 33% of total forest area in our country. Second demarcation comes when we talk about the barren and the wasteland. You know the barren and the wasteland lands are those lands which are not fit for cultivation, and they are basically land which is being wasted. That land which is not fit for cultivation. When we compare the data, we find that the year 1960 to 1961, the data was 12%, which decreased now in 2008 to 8.61. Now, the question arises, why did the barren land decreased? The barren land decreased because that land which was not fit for cultivation of crops was utilized by human beings for for making up of roads, buildings, etc. That is, it is not fit for agriculture but fit for people livelihood. Livelihood means for their survival. Building of houses, building of roads, building of offices, etc. The third important classification is non-agricultural use. Non-agricultural use basically means that land of agriculture which is not fit for agriculture. Maybe by the tenure of time, the land has lost its fertility. We find the data has increased from 4.95% to 5.57%. There might be several reasons that why the non-agricultural use has increased. The main reason is the population increase. The fourth important classification is termed as permanent pasture. Permanent pasture basically means that piece of land in which the crops are being grown for the grazing of animals. Permanent means that this is a land which has been permanent, which has been reserved for the grazing of animals for long and long. Here we find that the data has decreased. In the year 1960 to 1961, the total permanent land pasture was 4.71, which has decreased from 4.71 to 3.28 square kilometer. What is the reason? The main reason behind it is that the cattle population has decreased. Now you will ask a question, if the cattle population has decreased, what about the population which is surviving of the cattle? Children, there are now various means by which the human being is able to grow various crops for the animals. Now what are those various crops? The various crops can be artificial food, pesticides, use of fertilizers, use of HYV seeds. HYV seeds here means high yielding variety of seeds. So that with limited seeds, we using artificial things like fertilizers, etc., they can have maximum amount of grazing for the animals. So here we find that the permanent pasture also decreases. The next classification, miscellaneous tree crop. You know very well, as I told you in previous class also, that miscellaneous tree crops are basically those crops which are not being cultivated by human beings. They are those tree crops which are growing naturally. No farmer, no gardener goes and give any kind of fertilizers or water to them. They are in our country in large amount, basically in the Himalayan regions and to a little bit in the peninsular region also. When we talk about the miscellaneous part, we find that these miscellaneous tree crops, we find that there also there is a decrease in them. The decrease is from year 1960 to 1961 from 1.50 to year 2008 it has decreased from 1.11. The main reason behind it is that now human beings has reached for its own selfish interest to the forest also, where without taking care of the environment, without taking care of the conservation of the forest, they are simply cutting down these miscellaneous tree crops. The next classification regarding this is cultivable wasteland. Children, in my previous class, I told you that these two cultivable land is being divided into two parts. One, which is the current fallow land, which is left for 1 year or less than 1 year. But more than that, this is of less use. We find that the cultivable wasteland which is left to have its soil fertility for 5 years and above had decreased from 6.23 to 4.17%. We find apart from that other fallow land. Other fallow land means that land which has been left barren for years together, for more than 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. There also there is an increase in the land pasture. And what is the increase? It has increased from 3.73 to 3.50%. The main reason behind it is that now there are major changes in the agriculture pattern of our country. When we talk about the agriculture pattern involves green revolution. Green revolution means that how the government is also emphasizing that there should be more greenery, there should be conservation of forests, so that we can maintain the ecological balance of our country. Last but very important, we'll talk about the net sown area. Net sown area. Net means total. Sown basically means the area where we can do the agriculture. Year refers to that how in a particular year, in a particular piece of land, in a country, in one particular year, what can be the net sown area. Children, when we talk about the net sown area is of one particular year. We find that here also there is a increase in the agriculture area. Please remember, you might be wondering that I am saying that the permanent pasture as well as land utilization for agriculture is decreasing. Then what is the reason that the net sown areas is increasing again and again? When I say, I mean to say that the cropping pattern has improved, as a result of which we find the crop production has increased. There are major changes which are involved in the growing up of the crops. These major areas in which the crop production has boosted up, the main changes are, the major changes which has been followed by our country is the usage of green revolution, the usage of high variety seeds, good quality of pesticides, so that if suppose there are pests in the crops, they die immediately. Very good quality of fertilizers, so that with limited fertilizers we can have maximum amount of crop production. These are the various classification that how the various land pattern in our country is being utilized. This is a very important question. In the examination, the question will come in the form of 5 marks or 3 mark question, talking specifically about what are the land use pattern in India. You will be dividing all those various parts. For recapitulation, once more, we will talk about the various classification: forest, barren wasteland, non-agricultural use, permanent pasture, miscellaneous tree crops, cultivable land and other fallow land. Very important, we will be talking about the net sown area. After this, in my next class, I will be referring to soil, that what are the various means of soil. In my next video, I will be talking about that how when the bigger rocks, they break down with the running temperature, with the wind, with the change in temperature, how the big rocks break up into small rocks, and these small rocks take the formation of the soil. Soil, which is an important resource for the crop production. Whenever I say that the crop utilization or crop production has to increase, we find that soil plays a very important role. As the parent rock, so will be the soil of that particular region. What do I mean by this? I mean by this that as we children resemble to a large extent with our parents, similarly as the parent rock is there, the soil of that part of our country is also found there. For example, in Deccan Plateau, if we have black soil, black rocks which has originated because of the lava flows, we find gradually after some time these soils break down, these big rocks break down into small rocks. Gradually after some time, with erosion etc, weathering, erosion etc, they take the formation from by years together, they take the formation of the soil. So in the Deccan Plateau. So I end up with my video today about land use pattern in our country. Thank you.